If you're old enough, you might have seen this before. So, why did it exist? What were people thinking? And why was it discontinued? And also, why it might be back? Watch on as we'll go back in time to days where MIRC was a thing, guys have center parking hair, and aliens wore oversized t-shirts in Singapore. So, it all started back in 1997, when people were still calling others to say,
"Hey, hello, who pitched me,
Back then, Mediacorp started research on having a TV in buses, calling it a digital television on wheels. Now, back then, digital television, or anything digital, wasn't that mainstream. Internet was still 36 hours a month with Singtel, and Nokia 3210 was not even released yet, so it was still a challenge, and eventually, they launched TVMobile on 14 February 2001. Back then, the media industry had suddenly become more competitive, as SPH has just started a television broadcaster called MediaWorks to compete with Mediacorp. In fact, it was so competitive that MediaWorks also planned a similar service called Channel O, which was supposed to be in outdoor places like shops, bands, and buses as well. But I couldn't find any more details about that. So, when TVMobile launched, it created quite a big hoo-ha. Firstly, because it was digital, it was challenging as they had to use relatively new technology. Secondly, the logistics were, crazy for the lack of a better word. When it was first launched, Mediacorp had to install the monitors in over 1,500 SBS Transit buses. For each single deck bus, there will be 2 monitors, and for each double deck bus, there will be 3 monitors. Moreover, there will be 8 to 10 speakers in each bus. You can imagine the number of monitors and speakers that had to be installed. A total of $50 million was used to build the system. And because of how refreshing it was, people initially kind of like it. I have been through the period and it was indeed pretty cool to see a TV in a bus. After all, remember, it was 2001. We might already have Nokia 3210, but unlike my cool friends who had used up all their 500 SMS every month by the first week, I have no friends to SMS to. So wherever I'm in the bus, I would just daydream or play Snake in my phone. The TVMobile was a respect. There were technically 3 main blocks. The morning blocks, which was catered for working adults and therefore have more informative shows or current affairs shows. Just think of the block filled with CNA and the Blue Cat videos. The afternoon block is catered for students and housewives, so it's lighter entertainment shows or maybe music videos. So just think of the block filled with sneaky sushi or YOLO videos. The evening slot was for the general public, so it's pure general entertainment. So you can think of the block filled with videos from pranksters like Imran. Because if you have been through the TVMobile era, you'll remember it as a platform plane just for laughs, a program about harmless pranks. There are, of course, advertisements, because the entire infrastructure and whatnot was entirely by Mediacorp. The buses are just a median. 70% of the programs are in English, while 30% in Mandarin. And here's something interesting. There were speakers around playing the sounds from the programs, but they were not as loud as the uncle who played his video loudly at 6:17 PM in bus 189 from Bukit Batok Crescent to Clementi MRT station. Nabe uncle, last warning. From what I remember, it's subtle, but yet you can still hear it. However, if you want to hear it better, you can use a portable radio and tune in to 89.3. Now, as mentioned, initially, it was well received, but the screen froze very often. It's almost common, at least from what I remember, to see frozen screen when you enter the bus. It was only in 2003 that Mediacorp improved the system and reduced the downtime to just 1%. Nevertheless, throughout its lifespan, not everyone liked it. While I personally like it as it provided me with something to look at, some people thought that it disturbed the peace in the bus. After all, remember, it was in the early 2000s when uncles didn't have an iPhone to watch one live stream loudly and foreign workers didn't have internet to call and chat with others loudly. Back then, it was really very peaceful to sleep in the bus. Still, TVMobile continued and it looked promising. There were interactive contents whereby you can SMS to have your message appear on the screen. Exclusive contents were made for TVMobile, and in 2005, most SBS Transit buses were fitted with TVMobile. Simply put, everything was looking good. This is why in 2009, it was a surprise when people saw this press release. On 15 December 2009, Mediacorp suddenly said that they were discontinuing TVMobile 16 days later on 1st January 2010. But why? According to Mediacorp, the resources required to operate and maintain the service are substantial. Having carefully evaluated the viability of the service, Mediacorp has decided to discontinue the service upon expiry of its current agreement with SBS Transit. In other words, it was very expensive to run the system, and since their contract with SBS Transit was ending, they ended it lah, which was understandable. People had started to use their devices more. iPhone was released in 2007, and people had started to play games on their phones instead of staring at a just for laughs video. I mean, it's more fun to toss a paper into a bin than to watch a repeat of a prank, right? But why do I say that this is making a comeback? Well, while there is no TV and sounds from the front of the bus nowadays, there are now phones and sounds coming from the uncle who played his video loudly at 6:17 PM in bus 189 from Bukit Batok Crescent to Clementi MRT station. Yeah, you get the idea. The noise pollution people were complaining about are now coming from phones instead. The very device that contributed to TVMobile's demise. Now, that might change soon. Watch this to know why soon people might no longer play loud videos in buses and MRT. And thank you for spending almost 5 minutes with me. I really appreciate it and hope that you learned something.